My name's Joel, and I've spent the last 3 months building this post-frame storage barn and workshop for myself. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you all the things that I wish I had done differently and all the things I'm really glad I did in the process. So stick around. It's been a while since I've given you an update on our rural property that we bought this summer because we've spent a lot of time working on this building right here. I'm calling it the Traveler Toolkit headquarters, but more than that, it is a storage facility for our RV and a lot of the equipment we use to camp and run this channel. And I thought I would share this process because I know that so many of you out there that own RVs, boats, any kind of recreational vehicles, UTVs, ATVs, you might be thinking about building something just like this to store all of those things on site. That's what we wanted to do, stop paying storage fees somewhere else. And I just thought it would be helpful for me to share my experience, what I've gone through over the last couple months and what I've learned by doing this. So let me start off by telling you about the specs on this building. It is a T-shaped building with one large section just for storage and one section that is more of a workshop. Our large section here is 40 feet wide by 50 feet deep. It has 16-foot sidewalls. Then teed into the side of that building, we have a 40-foot wide, again, section that's only 30 feet deep and a much smaller roof height with 10-foot sidewalls on the roof. Now, I know this isn't a flattering angle for me, but this is a perfect angle for me to show you something that I'm super glad I insisted on. It is the 2-foot overhangs on both buildings that you see right here and right here. The overhang is simply the portion of your building that extends out from your wall and goes to your gutters. Now, I've seen a lot of these metal buildings and builders cut corners by having almost no overhang. The standard is about a 1-foot overhang, and my builder even tried to talk me out of a 2-foot overhang. But now that it's done, I'm so glad that we went this direction because it looks so much nicer, gives the shop a finished look, and it protects my doorways, my windows, my walls, everything from extra weather that it doesn't need to get. Let me flip this around and show you a little bit more detail. So you can see it just gives it a really nice finished look. And even though we're gonna have a porch on this section of the barn over the concrete, in the areas that we don't, like right here and out front over where the garage doors are, it really gives us some extra protection and I think aesthetic beauty because these 2-foot overhangs just make something that would otherwise just look like a barn look so much classier. And I'm absolutely glad that we did it, and I'm glad that I insisted on it when others told me it might be an unnecessary expense. I mean, look how good that looks. Now, something else I'm really glad that we did was designed our own size of overhead doors. We actually have 2 doors on this barn, one that's more for equipment that goes in and out, and one that rarely opens because it's where our RV lives. But both of these doors are 14 by 14. That means we have 14 feet of width, really wide for an RV, and 14 feet of height, which will cover the largest RV that we have ever owned. And adding overhead door openers was a must. We could have gone a little cheaper and instead of doing insulated doors, done roll-up doors with those chains on them, but I'm really glad we went with insulated overhead doors with openers, 14 by 14 on each side. It left us a couple feet on these middle sections and side sections. I believe it's 3 feet on each section. And it just feels like the right amount of spacing. We've got a lot of room to get in and out. We're not cramped in between bays, and I'm really glad we went with this size of a door. And even though we're still in the process of moving in and things are filthy and dirty, we've been building in the winter, there's lots of mud, I want to show you the interior of this side so I can tell you about a few other things that I'm really glad we did. So as we come in here, you can see we have 16 feet sidewalls, and that is something that I'm really glad that we did, because once we got everything in here, just like everybody says, it feels a little bit cramped. And what do you do when you run out of floor space? Well, you can build up. And so I've already decided a couple months into completing that I would like to put a mezzanine along the back side of this building here. And because we have 16 feet from the floor all the way up to the bottom of our trusses here, we can split that in half and have almost a full 8 foot down below and 8 foot up top. I'm going to put more storage over top on a second section here, maybe about to that third beam there, not all the way across. That way we have a full 50 feet behind our RV. But I'm really glad we went with 16 feet as a minimum. A little taller would have given us more room. If you want to go 18 feet, you could probably do it, but just trying to keep costs relative and as low as possible, I'm glad we went with 16-foot sidewalls so that we then could add a mezzanine if and when we need it, and it looks like we're going to need it sooner rather than later. Well, it's already been a long, cold winter for me. I'm ready for summer, but right now it's a perfect time to mention today's video sponsor, Camel Outdoors, and this Urban Edge men's insulated jacket. I've been wearing it for about a month and a half now, testing it out, and here are some things I absolutely love. The first thing that I noticed was this scratch and abrasion-resistant outer shell. It's also extremely waterproof, so if you spill anything on your jacket, it just runs right off. Did you see that? It's crazy, and it's just gonna hold up to a lot of wear and tear and not look old and tired. One of my key requirements for a winter jacket is a good hood. You can pull this up on a rainy day, stay nice and warm. It zips all the way to the top, and then you have snaps in front of your zipper. These are really nice and tight, give you a nice clean look going down the jacket, but you can pull this tight, keep yourself nice and warm on a windy, cold day like today. And my favorite part is what is lining the inside. It has a wool lining that is super soft and super warm right inside here. That is what is going up against your body. So I really appreciate that, because from the inside out, this jacket is comfortable and it's warm. So if you're looking for a quality outdoor jacket that will keep you warm and keep you outdoors, then check out the Camel Outdoors Urban Edge to Peak Tex outdoor men's jacket. I'm gonna leave a link down in the description below with a special discount code from the brand, so check it out for yourself. Now, you probably noticed there is a section that is finished, and that is because this goes into the shop here, and that is covered because there is insulation behind that. So this is an insulated space in here. All of this around here is unfinished and uninsulated, and that was on purpose. We didn't want to insulate this space because of the cost, but one thing I wish I had done was put tin on the ceiling, metal on the ceiling. Now, it would have been expensive. It would have cost me another $5,000, I believe was the quote. But even without insulation on the walls, if we had tin on the ceiling, it would allow us to run some giant space heaters, which we have over here, and warm up this space a little bit easier without heat escaping through the top of the roof and through our ridge cap here. So if we were to have put some metal here, it would allow us to heat this room a little bit more efficiently. And we don't try to heat this very often, but when we throw heat in here, it just seems to disappear up into the roof and out the ridge cap. So I wish we would have built into the budget metal on the interior. And part of the reason we didn't do everything we wanted to was because we allocated extra budget to this right here. You'll see it on this plate. We did Perma Columns on all of our posts, which in post frame construction is not always the norm. This post, this laminated treated post, would normally go into the ground, meaning wood straight to ground contact. I wanted something that would be a little bit more permanent, and so I asked about concrete piers, and my builder said that this was the most cost-effective and really industry standard way to do that. It's a perma column. This is a precast concrete pier that goes, I believe, 3 feet below and then at least a foot above grade here. This is actually more than a foot above grade. You're seeing a foot above even the concrete. But the laminated treated beam is attached here with these giant bolts, and it sets right on the concrete. And as you can see, we have no ground to wood contact, and that's just going to keep our structure safe from rot, because I would hate to build a structure this big and then in 15, 20, 25 years have issues with rot on my posts. So we spent almost an extra almost $10,000 adding Perma Columns to every single post on this building. And I'm so glad we did, because we really went back and forth on whether or not it was worth the extra expense. All right, I've got one other thing to mention on the outside of the building, then I can get warm and go inside and show you the fun part, the shop. But when we built this building, we had planned to put concrete only on the interior of the building. We were gonna run gravel all the way up to the edges of the building, and we thought that would be just fine. So the building was built, the concrete was getting ready to be poured, and we looked at this and said, it just feels a little unfinished. We feel like we need some exterior concrete. And so we ended up pouring this pad right here. It is 15 feet out from our building. And then over here, we did a section that is the full length of the shop, but came out 8 feet from the side for a little porch. And we're actually going to be building kind of a really cool timber frame porch with a roof that comes out there. But I can tell you, I am so glad that we added those last minute. It wasn't a part of the original plan. Having a little bit of a skirting coming out of garage doors and coming off of your pedestrian door, the entrance of the shop. So glad that we did it. In fact, I'll show you in just a few minutes one other place I wish we had done it, and we just didn't because we were trying to save as much money as we could, but not mad that we added these. So thankful that we got some exterior skirting and pads coming out of our building. So if you're thinking of doing the same, I would highly suggest doing this. In the grand scheme of things, this was not that much extra, because while the concrete guys were here, they could just add it on to the same job versus having to come back and start a new one. All right, take off your muddy boots here, because it's about to get a whole lot classier and cleaner as we enter the shop space. Now remember, this is a totally brand new space, hasn't been built out, hasn't been finished, so we're still assembling cabinetry, putting things together, and trying to figure out where it all goes. But this is the gist, this is the bones of my shop. It is 40 feet long that way, and 30 feet long this way. You can see at the end here, we decided to do a garage door, an overhead door, no opener on this, but this is just so if we're bringing equipment in and out for reviewing, we can come through here. It is a single door. Then over here we have a pedestrian door in the corner. We have a couple windows on this side, and then our double door that leads back to the warehouse here. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and take my coat off because it's hot, and then I'll tell you what I love about this shop and what I would change. Now, probably the most important decision I had to make in this shop before everything was finished is how I was going to finish the walls and the ceiling. And as you can see, I ended up going with metal, the same metal that we put on the outside of the warehouse and the shop. And in here we went white. And I want to tell you that was not something that I was 100% convinced of when we did it, but now I'm glad it's done. The reason I wasn't sold on it is that metal is a little crude. Metal has imperfections in it. Metal can, finish out a little funny. And I was also worried about being cold and echoing. So for all those reasons, I was a little hesitant on metal, but I did not want to finish drywall. I did not want to put up paneling. I just didn't want to go through that mess. So we ended up back at metal. And even though there are some things about this that we had to really refine as we finished it, as you can see, it's very clean. In fact, the only thing that I really don't love is this seam that runs right down the middle of my shop. But then again, you can't get a 40-foot piece of continuous metal. So we do have one seam right up on the ceiling. It's actually pretty good when you take a look at it. Doesn't look bad. But I'm really glad that we put metal up for several reasons. One of them being it's been really easy to mount things to. And that was one of my worries, is if I have metal, I'm going to be poking holes in that metal to hang things and mount things all the time. But I ended up finding a solution that was strong enough to make it work, and I've had to drill minimal holes. Here's what I'm talking about right here. These are called GATOR clips, and you can get these in several different sizes. No, this is not sponsored in any way. I just found these on Amazon and have probably purchased a dozen of them, and you can see they're great for hanging everything from coats to bibs, hats, and they hold various different weights together. This one is probably one of the stronger ones. I believe it holds up to 75 pounds. They come in different styles. So you have like this hook and then some are longer. I'll show you those out in the shop, but they are absolutely rock solid. And when you want to release them, you just flip this up and it comes off like that. You see that? There is a little magnet on the back. Then you can set them back on the wall and watch how fast and hard they grab. Just like that. When this is locked down, this will not come out. So I can mount things all over the shop with these GATOR clips. In fact, I have hung these acoustic panels over here with GATOR clips, a different style of GATOR clip, and it's what I have my jacket hanging on right here. It just looks like this. It looks like one of those 3M, I don't know what they're called, the command strip hangers. Same thing, just click this off, and it's a little magnet. These hold like 25 pounds, and then when you click them back together, wherever you put this thing, whew, it grabs and it grabs hard. So I'm hanging everything in the shop with these GATOR clips. I really like them, and they have made the process of putting a shop together with metal walls so much better. And oh yeah, I almost forgot, we have the different styles out here hanging up our chairs, some other coats. See, this one is a longer clip, and this is a shorter hook. You could hang rakes and things like that on those. Again, not sponsored, just something I've been really impressed with and helps when you put metal on the inside of a building. So I will leave a link to these in the description below if you want to check them out. As you can see, I'm using these like crazy on my metal panels inside. All right, so I have one more regret on this building, and even though I'm not sure what else I could have done about it, I'm gonna share it with you so you can make a better informed decision when and if you go to build your own building. So it's really trendy to do dark colors on buildings like this right now. We did the same colors on our cabin, which if you're interested, the cabin is coming along. Come back, I'll do another update video on that. And while these colors look really good from a distance, they are the most difficult colors for your installer. The dark colors, they'll tell you they show dimples more and they show dirt a whole lot more, not just from the building process, but also these crinkle colors, these matte colors like the black on our wainscoting and our roof. They hold in dirt because they have little texture in there that makes them flat and not shiny. You'll see the difference in the sheen here. This is a shiny metal. This is a matte metal. That will hold dirt. If you get dirt splashed on here, it will hold dirt. And I know you're saying, hey, Joel, that actually looks pretty good. I don't believe you. And I'm here to tell you that my builder ended up replacing all the wainscoting across the front side of our building because it was so dirty and they tried so many things to get it clean that they couldn't. It just looked spotted and disgusting. And at the end, it made me say, I totally regret getting a matte color black for at least the lower portions of the building. We can't really tell on the roof, you know, maybe a little dirty up there. We can't tell from down here. It looks pretty cool. But if you're going to go with a dark building, think long and hard about whether or not you can keep that clean. And if you want something that looks matte, just realize anything that gets on it is going to stick really hard and be hard to clean off in the end. So you've been warned. The other big question we had to answer in this shop was whether or not we leave this as a raw concrete floor, which we had it sealed, so it had a nice finish on it, but it just showed so much dirt. That was option number one. Option number two was epoxy, and honestly, the quotes for this room, a 30 by 40, were anywhere from like $7,500 all the way up to $10,000. So that kind of took that off the table for me. Plus, most epoxy guys said they don't like to epoxy until at least a year after the concrete has been poured because it's going to crack and it might crack your epoxy. Or the third option, which is the one we went with, obviously, is to put down a floor tile. And I really agonized over this decision. Ended up going with a PVC floor tile that I was able to put down by myself in just about 2 full days. I mean, it was not 2 easy days, it was 2 full days. You'll see the remnants of the tile here. You can just cut them with a mini chop saw and bang them in place with a rubber mallet. They come with this kind of puzzle piece connection, and then the back side here You can see that the backside has a receiver. So here's what the flooring looks like up close. And as you can see, the seams are really well hidden. This is what they call a coin pattern on here. It's got like a raised coin, maybe the size of a quarter on here. It really seems to be durable, easy to clean. It looks really nice, and it's not hard to put down. It's just floating, nothing on top. And on top of all that, it was only about 40% the cost of epoxy. So this room, I believe I spent about $3,700 on, and it was just so easy to put them down. You cut all the way up against the wall, so you're gonna come all the way here to your measurement, and you're gonna cut the exact size you need. And it really turned out pretty good. I'm pleased with the choice of the tile. I think it's made of PVC. It makes this room a lot quieter. It makes this room feel a little warmer, a little homier. And other than rolling things across it, like I have this cart with wheels, that doesn't roll as well as it would on concrete, you know? You hear all that noise. Other than that little caveat, I can fully endorse this type of floor, and I think already I prefer it over concrete. Well, that's everything I can think of. That's all the stuff that I learned over the last 3 months building this building. It was a fun experience, and I can't wait to finish it off because you're just seeing the beginnings. Now we're building out the interior. We are really doing some cool things with timber framing on the outside of the porch on the cabin, and going to be the outside porch here on the barn as well. So make sure you come back for those periodic updates. I think it's really cool, the things that you can do with timber and with real wood, not just building the way that people built hundreds of years ago, and we're doing that here on the property. So make sure you come back, and if you found this video helpful, please leave me a thumbs up. And I seriously do want to hear your comments about your post frame builds, your shop, your warehouse, your storage builds. I want to see what other people are doing and just learn from you, because I have no doubt we'll be building more structures like this, maybe in different properties, as we're looking at having cabins and camping places in different parts of this country. Who knows where that's going to lead us in the future. So as always, this is the Traveler Toolkit. Thanks for watching. My name is Joel, and I'll see you in the next video.